With the huge success of Black Flag Resynced, Ubisoft will no doubt greenlit future remakes of fan-favorite Assassin's Creed games. The game literally surpassed its annual target of 3.5 million copies in just 2 weeks. It's insane. And if the rumors are true, AC1 is said to be their next remake and is already in active development. But you know what? They won't be able to do it. At least, not in the way people expect. And I say this with certainty, and there are reasons behind it. Reasons that, by the end of this video, you will most definitely agree with. And trust me, they're very concerning. We all know AC1 for its story and Altair, but the most important thing people tend to forget is how the game was actually structured. It was very difficult from any other Assassin's Creed game. For instance, it didn't have traditional missions, no dedicated cutscenes for each one of them, and it also lacked multiple unique objectives. Instead, we had memory blocks rather than sequences, and those blocks contained memories that felt less like actual missions and more like side objectives scattered throughout each city's districts. That's just how the game was designed. Literally, for every block, we had to do the same things. Investigate, beat someone up, win a race, and then submit the findings to the bureau to get the green light for the assassination. No new characters, limited dialogue, and barely any cutscenes. Most of the time, it was just a fixed camera angle between two characters discussing something related to the investigation, and that was it. Now, tell me, what exactly are they going to add here? A remake is built upon the foundation of the original, and let's be honest for a second. The only reason they managed to pull Black Flag Remake was because they could reuse so much material from the original game. Every main story cutscene we see is essentially a one-on-one recreation because it was literally lifted from the original. And if you want to see the newly added content, well, this is what it looked like. I'm not saying that the remake is bad in any way, but you can definitely notice the leap in quality. And AC1, assuming they're aiming for a near-perfect remake, which is exactly what they should be doing by the way, needs that treatment more than any other game. We don't need the same hands-on-the-hips posture we've seen in every other Assassin's Creed game for years. To their credit, by the time of making this video, they've already taken note of it and fixed it in some missions of Resynced. That's a good start. But we need proper mo-capped cutscenes and a stronger narrative structure. Give my boy Altair actual missions where he investigates, assesses the situation, and then strikes at the end. Maybe even add unique side stories that connect back to Altair's chronicles and the book called The Secret Crusade, which expands on the events of the game in far greater detail and is honestly much more interesting, instead of simply copying and pasting the same structure or giving us half-baked missions, since the original was pretty straightforward in that regard. We need a clear narrative vision, stronger connections to Altair's wider story, and meaningful side content. Otherwise, there won't be much of a remake in the remake. Even if they manage to overcome the first hurdle by tweaking or even completely rewriting the story of the first game, there's still another challenge that would take a tremendous amount of time to get right. And honestly, I'm not sure modern Ubisoft has the guts to pull something like that off. Unlike AC4, which took place largely across the Caribbean Sea, AC1 didn't have ships, chariots, or any other flashy gameplay gimmicks. It took place in the Holy Land, and from start to finish, you were on foot. You probably see where I'm going with this. The game needs gameplay that defines Altair. Because here's the thing, Altair ibn La-Ahad is not just another assassin, he's the epitome of Assassin's Creed. Without him, there would be no Creed, no Ezio, and possibly no Assassin's Creed at all. So you simply cannot copy and paste mechanics from Shadows, Mirage, or Resynced and call it a day. The combat has to be revamped and, if possible, completely reworked around him. The thing is, with Black Flag Resynced, many people were willing to settle for the combat system we got because Black Flag was never really a combat-focused game. It was a pirate game within the Assassin's Creed series. Just like the original Black Flag took the system from AC3 and focused heavily on the naval aspect, Resynced took the system from Shadows, modified it a bit like Mirage, and called it a day. For AC1, that approach simply would not work. It's clear as day. First of all, Altair is a master assassin. He needs elegance, swagger, and ruthlessness. He needs hidden blade combat, dagger combat, and even the crossbow for that matter. These weapons define him. You cannot just limit him to a sword. It would be a disgrace to his legacy. And I'm not saying they should recreate the original combat system one-on-one because I know they won't be able to do that. that much is certain. But they should take cues from it, improve upon it, and make it work within a modern engine. Add a variety of animations, make it mechanical, make players feel the progression as Altair regains each rank within the Brotherhood. Teach him new techniques, unlock new moves, and encourage players to mix and match tools. There's just so much that they can do with that concept. Altair was the guy who practically never got hit in direct combat. Respect that feat. Make players feel overpowered while playing as him. You're already halfway there, just don't fumble it. And honestly, I know you guys can pull it off because Ubisoft Bordeaux is behind the curtain. And closely related to everything I just talked about, how can you imagine Altair without his most defining trait? Stealth. It was one of Altair's greatest strengths. According to Assassin's Creed lore, this dude was so fast and agile that the Templars genuinely considered him a ghost. Literally a ghost. He would eliminate targets and disappear before anyone even realized what had happened. He was just that much of a beast. In the canon lore, Altair is described as a master of social stealth, tactical planning, and using his surroundings to his advantage. We see that reflected in the game as well. He blends in with monks, scouts locations carefully, and studies the situation before making his move. But that's who Altair is beyond the jokes. And if you know or even care a little about the lore of these games, you know that he was the one who introduced double hidden blades and pioneered many of the assassination techniques we see throughout the series, and also helped shape the modern Assassin Brotherhood into what it eventually became. So when I look at the stealth system in Black Flag Resynced, I get concerned. And as I mentioned long before the remake even released, the stealth is broken, and it definitely is. Enemies detect you from absurd distances, sometimes seemingly through sheer magic, which simply shouldn't happen, especially when that wasn't really the case in the original game. All I'm saying is that we need a balanced stealth system. A system that punishes reckless play but rewards patience, planning, and stealth. They can take cues from AC Shadows, which is arguably the best stealth system in the modern Assassin's Creed games, at least in my opinion. It's fluid, cinematic, and most importantly, it doesn't feel broken. But even then, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And that's the alarming part. Because Ubisoft themselves recently said in an interview that remakes cost less, enter development earlier, and generate more profit. And that mindset worries me. Because AC1 is not the kind of game that can be remade by simply updating the graphics and calling it done. I just hope that they take their time with it. Because if there's one Assassin's Creed game that deserves that level of care, it's Altair's. Let's be real, guys. Let's be real. Back when AC1 released, nobody knew it would grow into a franchise this massive. A franchise that would expand so much that at times it would even contradict its own lore. As a matter of fact, we already made a video covering some of the biggest plot holes in the series, so if you're interested, you can check that out as well. And the things I'm talking about here are closely related to that video. You see, now we have Basim ibn Ishaq, and at the end of Mirage, we see the memory seals that Altair used in Revelations. Then there's Cassandra, a living, breathing immortal who survived all the way until 2018, making her the only character who can realistically appear in almost any Assassin's Creed game if the developers decide to include her. On top of that, the transition from the Hidden Ones to the Assassins essentially happens around the time of the Crusades. So explaining all of this will be a challenge on its own, because much of the original team that worked on AC1 is long gone. And to be honest, we don't exactly have the strongest writers anymore. Instead, we got dialogues like this.
You did keep me from hanging.
True.
But that doesn't mean you own me.
Also true.
So we cannot really expect them to tie together decades of Assassin's Creed lore through writing and presentation alone. It needs proper setup, a proper questline if they want to introduce these ideas. Something meaningful, not the kind of half-baked fan service they tend to rely on, because Altair's journey isn't a simple one. It's long, expansive, and deeply connected to the wider lore of the series. And as I said in the beginning, they need to find a way to expand that journey naturally while integrating it into the game's main objective. The important thing to note here is that Ubisoft has introduced a lot of concepts over the years that simply won't make much sense if we revisit AC1 without any context. And honestly, it would be better for all of us if they acknowledge at least some of those additions in a way that feels natural rather than rushed. Because the last thing this remake needs is lore that feels cheap, forced, or stitched together at the last minute. I don't know whether making this video was a good idea or a bad one because the remake is supposedly in active development. But even if this video reaches just one person from the development team, then my purpose will be fulfilled. Because Altair isn't just another gaming character, he is one of the greatest, and portraying his character arc, gameplay style, and story in a mediocre way simply won't be accepted. And at the very least, he deserves a proper remake no matter how many years it takes to make. People will buy it regardless because it's Assassin's Creed 1. Nostalgia alone guarantees that. So if you're going to remake it, do it right. Take your time, respect the character, respect the legacy, and most importantly, respect the game that started it all. So what do you think? Do you agree with these concerns, or do you think Ubisoft can pull it off without making all of these changes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy our content, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care and goodbye.